Hi guys, today's video is brought to you from my sofa with me under a blanket because I have been ill for the last 2 weeks. The last time I filmed was, I think, the Wednesday after we got back on the Monday from our holiday in Monaco, and on Tuesday I had what I thought was a bad bout of food poisoning and I was still a bit funny on Wednesday, but actually I think that was a stomach bug because I ended up being sick with that bug for a full week, having really intense stomach cramps. Oh, by the way, if you're eating, I wouldn't recommend watching this video. I just don't. You're probably going to be put off your food. But basically, while I was away on holiday in Monaco, there were a few days where I was having these stomach cramps, and I noticed I was having them, I think, when I ate dairy. We had some really nice French butter, and obviously the French bread out there is amazing, so I was eating plenty of that. But I was having, butter on bread, and I had some stomach cramps, and then I had an ice cream and I got some stomach cramps, and I thought, this is a bit odd, because I've been eating dairy at this point now for a good few months. I introduced dairy back into my diet back in February, before we went away on holiday to Gran Canaria with Orin, and because obviously I've been dairy-free for him with his dairy allergy. But at this point, we're several months out from that. I've been eating dairy for months with no problem. So I was like, this is a bit odd that I'm suddenly seeming to be reacting to this. Anyway, those cramps kind of continued on and off, minorly. They weren't too bad. They weren't just, debilitating, but they weren't fun while we were on holiday. Then we got back, and then I had that really bad episode when I got back from seeing my friend on the Tuesday. And then the rest of the week, literally up from that Tuesday until the next Monday, I had these cramps on and off throughout that week. I had really quite bad diarrhea on the Tuesday, but fortunately didn't get that again. But I did get these really painful, sometimes when you have painful gas and you can feel this fart essentially move around inside you and you're like, oh, and it's kind of painful. It was like that, but really bad, really intense gas pain. And it kept going on and on over a few days. And I was like, when is this going to finish? What's going on here? I'm done with this, whatever. Monday, however, last week, it's currently Monday now, Monday last week, I was feeling a little bit better. I still had some minor cramps, but they weren't nearly as bad as they had been. And I thought, okay, I think we're finally coming to the end of this, thank God. Then literally, I kid you not, the next day, Tuesday, I woke up and I was feeling nauseous, I had no appetite, and I was really low on energy. I'd caught yet another bug. So I then spent all of last week feeling utterly probably worse than the stomach pain the week before. At least with the stomach pain, when I didn't have it, I felt fine. I couldn't really go out anywhere and leave the house because I needed to be near a toilet all the time. But I was able to get Orin to nursery, come back again. I had to drive there. But I was able to do that, and then I was able to kind of work during the day around the cramps, etc. It wasn't completely debilitating, but last week, the nausea, the fatigue, just it was horrific. I think it was actually COVID because my mum tested positive on the Monday and told me, and we thought, oh, maybe the stomach cramps is my body's weird way of reacting to COVID. But actually, I think I had a separate stomach bug and then caught COVID after it. So all of last week I was wiped out, and that completely wiped me out for work. I wasn't able to film anything. I wasn't able to edit any video. I think I had got my editing done on Monday, thank God, for this current week's video. But I wasn't able to film anything. I wasn't able to do my client work. I had to delay that. And so I basically spent the week in bed. I did attend my training courses, but the way that the training works for me, you have to attend a certain number of them live. You're only allowed to miss, I think, 5 of the live ones and catch up on them. But what you can do is, if you're not able to watch it then and there, you can sign into the live ones and then just let them know that you'll be watching it back later on, and it still kind of counts as you've attended the live event. So I was logging on last week to the live events, but just had to let them know, hey, I'm not very well at the moment, so I'm just kind of going to hover in the background here. But yeah, so obviously, even though I technically did them, I've still got to actually go back and watch them and catch up on that stuff. So I just feel like I'm so far behind, and I've been completely knocked off because I've had 2 weeks of not being ill. And before I got sick, obviously we were on holiday in Monaco, so I guess it's 2.5 weeks I've had off now. And when you're self-employed, that really hits you. Mentally, before going into this, I was kind of prepared for the fact that I would get sick from time to time, or Orin would get sick and I'd have a day or two here and there that I'd have to miss, and we just have to work around it, etc. But I was not prepared for me to be ill for 2 weeks straight. I haven't had a bout of sickness that bad for a long, long time. When I was sick with Lyme disease, it was very common for me to take weeks to recover from things. But since I've got a lot better, I haven't, like, I can recover from things in a couple of days now. So I'm kind of prepared to have a day or two where I feel a bit grim. And depending on how sick you are, you can either push through it, get a bit of your work done, or get like the basics of what you need done. But I hadn't been prepared to be like knocked out for 2 weeks. That's been tricky. That's the trade-off, I guess, you get for self-employment, where you get a lot of flexibility with when you work and where you work, etc. You get to kind of choose those things, at least with the type of self-employed work I do. But in return for that, obviously, you are the only person really involved with what you do. So if I'm out, then the work doesn't get done, and then I can't get paid. And yeah, so that sucks. Whereas I guess that's kind of why I'm thinking I might actually quite like to go into an employed role in the future, because if you're sick, you take a sick day. And yeah, it's, you know, it's not great, but at least if something really needs to be done, there's somebody else in the company that can do it for you while you're ill. And you can still get sick pay, even though it's a lot less. But like, just, you know, pros and cons to everything. But this last 2 weeks has been rough. Fortunately, I am a lot better today. Yesterday was the first day I felt like I was actually human again, and I was able to go do a little pottery thing that I was doing with some friends, because it was Father's Day yesterday, and a small group of my solo mum friends were meeting up at one of their houses to do some pottery, and we made some hand and footprints of our kids. Now, obviously, as they're getting bigger, and it's kind of nice to have those little memories of them done in these little like pottery circles that we made. So that was really nice. And I was able to talk to some other humans for the first time in ages. So it felt really good to get out of the house again and do that. But I remember on the drive up there being like, oh my God, I am knackered. It's like 9:30 in the morning and I'm already exhausted. I wasn't ill, it's just I've been knocked because, the other thing, so last week, I was nauseous. I had no appetite at all. So I could barely eat anything. And I had really bad diarrhea, and like drinking made me feel sick as well, which is the first time like even just sips of water or squash or whatever actually like made me feel sick. So I was limiting the amount I was drinking because I didn't want to feel nauseous. But obviously, like diarrhea, you lose quite a lot of fluids that way. So I was like, I've got to drink. I've got to like top up my fluids this way. But it was just miserable. Do not recommend it. But yesterday I was fine. Like I was absolutely well again. It was just I was completely fatigued from the fact that I haven't eaten or drunk enough really recently. But Orin fell asleep in the car on the way there and stayed asleep when I parked, which is quite rare because he often wakes up now when I park. But I thought, you know what, I'll leave him sleeping and I'm just going to have a snooze in the car as well while I wait outside for him to wake up. So he actually slept for quite a while. I think I got about a half an hour nap in there with him. Well, I didn't sleep, but like I dozed, and it really helped. And then I was able to have a lovely morning/early afternoon with my friends. The kids played together and that was just so good. Like for my mental health, it was just so worth it. And then I obviously went and spent the rest of the afternoon with my parents to have Father's Day with my dad. But today is my first work day, so I've got so much to get through. So obviously I had to film a video because I didn't get around to doing it last week. I've got to film 2 videos this week and then catch up on the editing sometime. Although the editing at least is something I can do in the evenings, whereas filming is one of those things where actually like I've got to do that when Orin isn't here, when I have got childcare for him, because he's such a light sleeper that if I tried to film in the evenings, he would probably wake up while I was talking to you. And I also had to catch up with some client work this week because obviously I didn't get it done last week. And oh my God, that's the other thing that happened. Like it was just complete disaster last week. The software that I use to schedule the posts, because with my social media, like freelance business stuff that I do, I have some software that I use which schedules posts to go out. It's called Planoly. And last week it broke. So from Wednesday onwards, that none of the automated posts were going out. I was like, I'm pretty sure I haven't seen a post go out. And I was thinking, that's a bit odd. So I went on and checked the Planoly app and they weren't going out. But I couldn't figure out what was going on. And then I went onto their Twitter page and I realised, oh my gosh, there's actually an issue with them. And as I sit here on Monday, it's still ongoing. So that's a very long time for it to be down. So I've had to like go and manually post some of the things. And luckily it was just a case of copying and pasting over, but still that was something I could have done without. That's still not working yet, but I'm hoping that they will sort that in the next day or two, because this is ridiculous now how long it's gone on for. But also last week I really wasn't well enough, because it's like a creative thing you have to do when you have to think of content and design it and stuff. I was just not in the mind space to do that at all last week. I basically was just in bed for the rest of the week. The 2 days that Orin goes to nursery now, he started at the beginning of June going to nursery on Wednesdays and Thursdays, and my God, has that been a lifesaver the last 2 weeks when I've been ill, because it's meant that I've been able to have 2 days where I know he's well looked after, he's got lots of things to interact with, friends to play with, he's being well fed, etc. He's absolutely fine and having the time of his life as far as I can tell from all the pictures they send through. But I've also been able to just collapse at home and like try and get some rest and recover. But I usually obviously use those days to work, so I only have like 3 days in the week that I actually can like really blitz through and get work done, and a lot of that is now taken up with training. So yeah, just been a nightmare, as I said before, to juggle that. But I really was not well enough last week to do any of that work, so I'm having to kind of do 2 days of that this week and kind of pile in extra work now that I'm feeling better. So yeah, I think it's going to be a bit of an intense week, but hopefully we'll get through it. Another pretty big change that's happened since the last time I spoke to you is that Orin has now officially weaned. Like, he's stopped nursing entirely. I did mention in the last video I did where I talked about like how much of a disaster our holiday had been, and pretty much the last 2 weeks have been a disaster really. But he went on a nursing strike while we were on holiday, and initially we'd only feed in the night and then stopped doing that. And I was like, is he teething? Is he weaning? I didn't know what was up. When we came back, he then fed quite happily. He nursed to sleep, and then he nursed... Or maybe he didn't nurse to sleep, so I'd started giving him a bottle at night at that point. But he nursed in the night, and the morning he woke up on the Tuesday. But then from that time, I think I filmed it on the Wednesday. From that last video I filmed on the Wednesday. From Tuesday onwards, he then never nursed again. Like, he just didn't want to go on the boob. He just decided he was done. And after a couple of days, I was like, okay, I think I'm going to accept that this is us done with our nursing journey. And so that was it. He weaned at 15 months. And in some ways, I feel like... I feel really like I wasn't quite ready for it to happen. Like, I hadn't mentally prepared to wean him then. I was kind of thinking... I think I had started to think I was going to start reducing his feeds gradually, and I just already decided to start weaning off my domperidone. And I suspect what happened is, as I weaned off the domperidone, my milk supply dropped to the point where he didn't feel it was worth nursing anymore. But fortunately I had started doing that when he did start to wean, because otherwise I'd have still been having like a milk supply coming in, and you can't just stop taking that drug because it can cause you to be really depressed. So I was like obviously weaning off it slowly, have now fully weaned thankfully. But yeah, I suspect that's what happened, and he just decided he was done. And so yeah, I had sort of mixed emotions about it, of like our journey coming to an end at that point with breastfeeding, particularly given how like up and down it's been and all the challenges we've had and things we've had to overcome with like allergies and low supply and all sorts of other things. So, but also at the same time, I'm quite pleased that he did it really fuss-free. Like, it wasn't a difficult weaning process at all. He just self-weaned, and like he just stopped, and that was that. And as I have a low supply, and as I did come off the medication, I haven't had any issues with like blocked milk ducts or anything. Although like my left boob at the moment, like it is kind of sore underneath. It's more like it's not like a blocked milk duct, because that usually felt like quite solid. It feels more like a slight bruising. That's the best way I can describe it. But other than that, like I've had pretty much nothing. And this is 2 weeks on from him stopping, to be honest, so I don't know what that is. So yeah, we are no longer breastfeeding. That is our breastfeeding journey over. He does still have a bottle before he goes down to bed. I've been doing the milk ladder with him, and he's now passed all of it, which is fantastic. But I do still have quite a lot of his high calorie formula. So what I'm going to do, and his dietitian wanted me to keep using it, I think, until we see her in August. So I'm going to just basically like keep using it up. But what I've been doing is doing like half of his formula and half cow's milk, so that he's like getting the cow's milk so that his body can adjust to it, but then also like he's still getting some of this high calorie formula, and we're using that up gradually. One of the upsides of him weaning actually has been that he has now started sleeping through the night again, because he had regressed a little bit, where I'd say, not regressed, but like 50% of the time I'd say he would wake up in the night for a feed while we were still breastfeeding, and I was fine with that. Like one wake night I can deal with that, no problem. But now that he doesn't get a feed in the night, he did wake up a little bit at first, but I would just basically go in and rock him, and then he would kind of go to sleep, and I put him back down. And since we've stopped nursing, he now pretty reliably sleeps through the night now. I can't remember the last time. Well, since he's weaned, I don't think he's woken up in the night more than once or twice. Like, he now sleeps through, which is fabulous. So I'm definitely not knocking that. I guess it's also possible that whatever stomach bug I had might have done something to my milk and made it taste funny, and that also put him off. I guess I'll never know. But either way, like, we're done with that part of the journey now, and it's been relatively pain-free, so that's quite good. And yeah, his sleep has improved too, so that's always really nice. Oh, and the other thing, like, because of being sick for so long, is that like I've just fallen behind with so much housework. I did have a new cleaner start, not last week but the week before. She came in and did a good clean, and thank God she did, because honestly I don't know what I'd have done without her. It was just, horrific. But you fall behind on the washing up, on like loading and emptying the dishwasher, doing the clothes washes, like tidying, just everything falls so far behind. And I'm used to it with like a day or two. I'm like, you give yourself a break. But when you're sick constantly for like a couple of weeks, there comes a point where you're like, actually, I feel grim, but I've got to do something because we need to have some clean cutlery. We need to like clean up a bit. It can't be this messy for too much longer. So that really wasn't fun, because while I wasn't feeling so well the first week, I put a lot of that stuff off and then ended up with a bug where I felt even worse the second week, and it was even harder to do those things. So yeah, and the other thing that I've realised is that whenever I'm sick for any prolonged period, I find it really triggering for me with remembering like how ill I was in my teen years. If I'm sick for just a day or two, like that's fine, like everyone gets sick every now and then. But for a prolonged period of over a week, then like something in my brain just clicks in and I start thinking about, what if I don't get well again? Like, what if this is like before? What if I'm going to be sick longer term again? And that's really terrifying. And I don't think you can ever understand that unless you've had a chronic illness before. But like the thought of, if you've been chronically ill and you've got better, the thought of ever going back to that is terrifying. And so there was a moment on, I think like Friday last week, where I felt particularly low, and I just felt so depressed about it and thinking like, God, I really hope, like I'm fairly certain this is just a bug, but you know, you just can't stop that bit of your brain from worrying like, what if this is going to be my new normal and now I've had a kid, and just like you just spiral from there. Which is not a fun thing to do, and there isn't really anything you could do other than to like try and remind yourself, no, I am just sick, people get sick, we will get better, but yeah, it's hard, it's really hard. But fortunately I am now feeling better, and speaking of which, I really do need to go and do some housework, put some washing on, probably get out of my pyjamas, and start my day. I have already actually blitzed through the bit of work that I needed to do this morning and caught up on some of my training, so I feel like I'm in a little bit of a better spot, and we'll get there, we'll catch up, but it is going to take a bit of time. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, guys. Thanks for listening to me ramble about how rubbish my last 2 weeks have been. I will resume the usual kind of content of me having a topic that I want to talk more in depth about, but honestly, like my brain is completely fried and trying to manage several other things, and I thought there's nothing else I could really think of to talk about now other than like what's been going on for the last 2 weeks. So here you are. Always interested in suggestions of topics you want me to talk about in this new sort of casual conversations series that I've started while I'm doing my training and work as well and having to cram everything in. I've really enjoyed this new style of video, actually. It's going well so far. So yeah, really looking forward to more suggestions. Oh, the other thing I wanted to say was that whilst I was ill, I think the fostering video that I did went out on why I quit fostering, and it's had such an amazing response to it that I think I will do sort of a part 2 to that, of answering your questions about fostering. So keep an eye out on my Instagram. I'll do a Q&A over there, because there were some really good comments on that video where I was like, oh, that's something I forgot to talk about as well, or oh yes, that's a topic I should delve into a little bit more. And I mean, it was already like a 40-minute long video. I couldn't really have squeezed any more into it. But I do think that there is definitely more to be said on that. And it was just amazing, the response that it got. So thank you so much for that. And I'm planning to do more around that. So keep an eye over on the Instagram. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, guys. Do please subscribe. Thank you as always to my Precious Star Superstar subscribers who support me for a little bit extra each month. If you're interested in joining, check out the join link down below. And I will see you guys next week. Bye everyone. Hope you have a great day.